Hello, welcome back to Bridge the Gap Engineers. My name is Dr. Nathaniel Sawyer, and I'll be continuing on the series we started a few weeks ago on understanding the ECSA outcome, focusing on Group C for technician. Just a disclaimer, the presentation is not on behalf of ECSA. However, it's a presentation based on my knowledge, experience, and research of the registration process. The information provided in this presentation is based on the ECSA official competency standard. Candidates should ensure that their submission aligns with the ECSA guidelines and the best practice. This document serves as a guide and should be used alongside the official ECSA documentation for a comprehensive understanding of the ECSA competency requirement. Now, the presentation provides an in-depth understanding of the ECSA registration requirement for professional engineering technician. It aligns with ECSA competency standard R02 and focuses on the essential outcome that defines professional competency. The objective of this presentation is to guide candidates in demonstrating competency in managing engineering activity and effectively communicating technical information in line with the prescribed outcome. The objective of this presentation is to explain the expectation to show competency in social, cultural, and environmental impact, which is outcome 6, and legal, regulatory, and safety requirement, which is outcome 7. Additionally, is to assist or show example to candidates how to demonstrate competency in those outcomes, which is outcome 6 and 7. Now, outcome 6 states, recognize the reasonable, foreseeable social, cultural, environmental effect of your well-defined engineering activity. In previous videos, we have defined what a well-defined engineering activity is. Therefore, kindly refer to the previous video, which is located in the link above. Outcome 6, focusing on 6.1. 6.1 states, describe the social, cultural, and environmental impact of this engineering activity. What is expected of the applicant? The expectation is that identify the potential positive and negative effect of your engineering task has on social, cultural, and the environment. It's expected of the applicant to provide thorough analysis of how your project might influence local community, cultural heritage, and the ecosystem. Show awareness of sustainable and ethical consideration. You are expected to also show how you engage with stakeholders and communities throughout the project lifecycle. Now, let's look at breaking it down into an example. Social impact. If you are designing a water pipeline, discuss how it improves access to clean water for the community, thereby improving public health and livelihood. Then, in terms of the cultural aspect, how does the project have an impact on the culture? If you are constructing a project near a cultural significant site, explain what measure you put in place to preserve the heritage, such as altering your design to avoid disrupting the heritage. Environmental impact. For a road project, for example, describe what measures you put in place to minimize the destruction within the environment, such as including wildlife or reducing deforestation. You need to explain how you actually protect the environment in the course of your engineering activity. Now, let's take it down to an example. Let's assume the project consists of constructing a sewer line. The bulk sewer line construction project significantly improved sanitation service for the local community, which previously relied on unsafe and unhygienic pit latrine. By providing access to a modern sewage system, the project helped reduce the risk of waterborne disease and enhanced public health outcome. This demonstrates the social impact of the project by promoting community well-being and the public health. During the project's planning phase, I identified that the proposed pipeline alignment would pass near a cultural significant heritage site. After consulting with the local cultural leaders and stakeholders, I then proposed that the pipeline route was carefully adjusted to avoid disturbing the site, thereby preserving the cultural heritage and demonstrating sensitivity to local custom and tradition. This approach showcases the cultural impact by ensuring that the project respects and protects cultural values. This project posed a significant environmental risk. Why? Because of soil erosion and potential water pollution. To mitigate this risk, I put in place erosion control measures such as sediment traps and temporary drainage system. Additionally, vegetation that were disturbed after construction, I ensured that I replanted those vegetation to restore the disturbed environment and support local biodiversity. This demonstrates environmental responsibility and commitment to sustainable practice in my project. Now, let's look at outcome 6.2. State how you communicated mitigating measures to affected parties and acquired stakeholder engagement. What is expected of the applicant here? For them to be able to demonstrate competency in outcome 6.2. It is expected that you describe how you informed affected individual, communities, or organizations about potential impact and the steps taken to mitigate them. So, what is expected of the applicant in demonstrating competency in outcome 6.2? You need to describe how you inform affected individual, communities, or organization about the potential impact and the steps you have taken to mitigate them. You need to detail your approach to engage in stakeholders and gather feedback or consent. You need to also demonstrate the use of clear communication, conflict resolution, and collaboration to addressing concerns with the affected parties. Now, in terms of an example, mitigating measures, for example, if it's a mining project, explain how you implemented dust and noise control measures and communicated these to the nearby residents. Engaging stakeholders. For a large-scale housing project, detailed public consultation held to address community concern and obtain approval. You need to show how you engage the community. Let's look at collaboration. Discuss how you worked with environmental agents to ensure compliance with regulation and how this was conveyed to the stakeholders. Now, let's use an example to demonstrate how we have achieved this outcome. I organized several community meetings throughout the project to inform residents about the potential impact of the construction activity. During this meeting, community members were given opportunity to express their concern and ask questions. Key issues raised, such as dust and noise, were addressed by explaining the mitigation strategy, including dust suppression method, limiting working hours, and the use of noise barriers. Regular updates were provided throughout the project lifecycle through newsletter and community bulletin to maintain transparency and build trust with stakeholders. This demonstrated competency in stakeholder engagement and social responsibility by actively involving the community in decision-making processes. Now, let's look at outcome 7. What does outcome 7 talk about? Outcome 7 refers to legal and regulatory requirements and the protection of health and safety of person in the course of your well-defined engineering activity or your task. Now, 7.1 states, list the major laws and regulation applicable to this particular activity and how health and safety matters were handled. What is expected of the applicant for them to be able to demonstrate competency in outcome 7.1? The applicant is required to identify and list legal and regulatory framework relevant to their engineering task, to that specific task. These include national, regional, or industry-specific standards that govern safety, health, and environmental practice. The response must detail how these regulations were applied during the task to ensure compliance and promote health and safety. So, in terms of health and safety laws, for example, we have the Occupational Health and Safety Act, relevant to each and every project, construction regulation for managing on-site activity, and Environmental Management Act if the project has an environmental impact, and also ISO in terms of industry standard for occupational health and safety management system. Then, in terms of health and safety handling, you need to demonstrate how you conducted toolbox talks daily before the beginning of work to ensure that workers understand the safety protocols, implementing a permit to work system for high-risk activities like excavation and confined space, ensuring that all workers wore the appropriate PPE, such as helmets and high-visibility clothing. So you are expected to demonstrate that you did implement this thing in your project. Now, let's take, for example, how do I demonstrate that I did actually do this? The major legal and regulatory framework applicable to this project included the OHS, Construction Regulation and Environmental Management Act. I ensured compliance with these regulations through the planning and implementation of health and safety measures. I developed a site-specific health and safety plan outlining safety protocols, risk assessment, and emergency procedures. I conducted daily toolbox talk to reinforce safety awareness and remind workers of the potential hazard. For those that are working on high-risk activity, I ensured that we have permits to conduct those activities. And also in an event where excavation exceeds the limit of 1.5, I ensured that those excavations were shored to ensure that it protects the workers that are on site. I ensure that all workers wore helmet, gloves, and reflective vest. And I conducted regularly safety audit through the use of a safety officer. So you are showing that how you conducted safety on site. And even if you don't do it personally, but the use of a safety officer demonstrate that you are cautious of the health and safety of the personnel on site. Now, let's look at outcome 7.2. State how you obtained advice in doing risk management for the work and elaborate on the risk management system applied. What is expected of the applicant here? The applicant must describe how they sought expert advice, guidance, or documentation on risk management. These may involve consulting with safety officer, using risk assessment tool, or referencing specific guidelines. Additionally, it is expected of the applicant to explain the steps and system used to identify, assess, and mitigate risk during their engineering task. Now, obtaining advice. You would consult with qualified safety officer or health and safety consultant to review project risk. You will refer to risk register from similar previous project for guidance on potential hazard. You would also attend workshop or training session on risk management. That is how you will obtain advice in terms of risk management. Risk management system applied. The utilization of risk identification and risk management process to document potential risk and assign control measures. That is one of the systems that you will use. Applying control system to eliminate hazard and substitute material, engineering control and administrative control, and also the use of PPE. You will conduct regular audit and safety inspection to ensure that risk mitigation measures were effective. Those are the systems you would use in terms of risk management. Now, how do you demonstrate competency using a project that you have actually implemented? I obtain advice on risk management through a consultant which has a qualified safety officer. And I also referred to risk management guidelines from previous projects. I also used a formal hazard identification and risk assessment process to conduct a systematic identification of potential risk and establish appropriate control measures to prevent or reduce the potential risk. So you are showing the reviewer of how you actually conducted risk management. You are demonstrating the processes you follow in terms of eliminating or reducing risk within a certain project. You would put in place engineering controls to ensure that trench stability, and also have administrative control, which includes a comprehensive safety training and maintaining a clear signage on site. So those are the things that you will put in place for risk management, and you are demonstrating how you put those things in place, such as the installation of safety signages on site, ensuring that trenches are stabilized to avoid or prevent the collapse of trenches on the personnel working in those trenches. Personal protective equipment. I ensured that personal protective equipment were used on a daily basis. I ensured that regular audit and safety inspection was carried out to evaluate the effectiveness of the risk management measures and also ensure ongoing compliance. This demonstrates competency in assessing risk and implementing effective mitigation strategies. So, in terms of the key takeaway in conclusion, this presentation outlined the core competency required for ECSA registration. It focuses on stakeholder engagement, risk documentation, and continuous training. It also highlights prioritizing safety, sustainability, and community involvement. If you want to reach us for more assistance on how to complete your ECSA registration, you can reach us on our email address on admin@btge.co.za and our website as shown on the site. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Understanding the ECSA registration, focusing on Group C of the outcome. Join us in our next episode. Thank you.